All right. So, part 2 about the introduction to the power of words, okay, in law. So, if you say U.S. citizen, you are talking about a citizen acknowledged in the 13th Amendment or 14th Amendment, okay, after the Civil War, when the Reconstruction happened, and that has nothing to do with the American Republic or America. It has to do with a foreign organization. Foreign organization. Okay? Or Congress of the United States. Okay? So I know it's really hard to contemplate that the federal government is actually a foreign maritime country called the Federated States of Micronesia in the maritime territory of the Western Pacific, which is where the Cook Islands and the Marshall Islands are. I know that's really difficult. And I know it's really difficult to understand that the United Mexican States, not the Republic of Mexico, the United Mexican States is who Congress actually works for in the North American continent. Okay? Now, if you don't believe me, go ahead and do some research on where the IRS and the FBI, well, not the FBI anymore, but the IRS and these federal agencies get their law facts from. Their law facts. Their facts and law. That they do the things they do through their administrative deep state. What they do is they go to the Federated States of Micronesia so they can circumvent the Hague Treaty, which is the International Court of Justice and Arbitration, which is international law for human rights. And that's where they get their law facts from. Because that is a flotilla over the United States and Mexico. And this is all done through treaty. This was all done through treaty, and sequentially, this is where we are now. Okay? So the Federated States of Micronesia is the Constitution literally says no citizen can own property. Period. No citizen can own property. Well, if no citizen can own property, and every single state and every single U.S. territory is under the Federated States of Micronesia, then what can own property? It's really simple. A trust, which makes it territorial, or a corporation. That's right. That's why the federal government looks at human beings and tribal nations, and anything that they align with is a for-profit, maritime, consumer law corporation. Right down to your filing taxes as a sole, S-O-L-E, proprietorship, LLC. Individual. Not individual. That's funny. Because individual actually means American. In the private sector, which is under U.S. code, not under state law or federal administrative law. The private sector, remember the private sector? That is what's called, when you are an individual, you are a trust. And when you are a trust, you are considered a foreign American corporation to the federal government and the IRS, but you are actually a American individual. That's why the word individual is there. Okay? So it gets even better. If you say the word inhabitant, right? So the Liberty Bell says inhabitant. Then you're talking about a human being that is habitating in a certain area. And if they were born in that area, they are considered a native inhabitant. And they are indigenous. Okay? Because America was not built by heretical bloodlines like all the other systems. Christianity didn't allow for bloodlines. It allowed for you are judged upon your works. You have to give duty. The only Americans that actually exist, that are actually Americans, are people who have sworn an oath to all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those are Americans. I think George Washington even said something about birth by the militia. So if you're willing to defend the land, if you're willing to defend the nation, and you're willing to put your life on the line for it, then you deserve to be an American citizen. Or an American citizen national. That's why the Congress of the United States, got the right to, ready? Very simple, naturalize. But the Congress never got the right to have citizens. That's not in the Constitution. Because citizens were state citizens. So if you lose your U.S. citizenship, where do you become a citizen? Oh, I'm sorry. You become a citizen through probate law, which is land law, at the state where you belong, where you're supposed to be. And you have to become a citizen. If you're not, you're an indigenous inhabitant. Okay? Because the Liberty Bell, the Penn Trust, was about the inhabitants. Okay? And technically, we didn't become American until North America and the Articles of Confederation in 1777 merged with Canada. The provinces. That's why it says the province of Pennsylvania. Because there are no countries in the Bible. Isn't that interesting? So, if you say universal jurisdiction, I would have told you a couple of years ago was the Vatican. Fortunately, that changed. The Vatican, Judaism, and Islam have all signed a treaty to create a universal tribunal. That is called universal law. That's their jurisdiction. So every time you say a word, if you say world, you're talking about commerce and trade. If you say national, you're talking about a nation, which is the American nation, which is territorial. If you say Marines, U.S. Marines, you're talking about streets and lands. That's probate court, and your citizen American Bill of Rights. Streets, on the streets, right? If you say the law of the sea, you're talking about the Navy. So if you say longshore, you're talking about trucking in the private sector, shipping, commercial. If you say consumer, you're talking about point of service where you plug your card in and you get things. That's supposed to be under the U.S. Coast Guard, okay? Which is why there's a Coast Guard flag at the Treasury building, okay? Which was removed, in 1965. They pushed the Coast Guard out because the federal government took control of our securities. Say security, you're talking about liquefying bonds and U.S. Treasury debt assets so that they can be monetized, like UN Security Council, International Security Council, National Security Council. That's just to liquefy debt. If you say education, you're talking about community education, more like what the Amish have when they teach morals and ethics and stuff in their school, in their education system. If you say school, you're actually talking about workmen to create workmen. But if you say workmen, you're talking about the Court of Workmen Compensation and Claims. But if you say employee, you're talking about slave outside of international human rights law. God bless. Hope this helps.